Da.
All right, another game in Bali. So
Bali against Ardiansyah. He was the Indonesian champion in that time. And we played the Nimzovic. And after A3, he took in the so-called Zemish variation for white. This is the so-called Zemish variation. As we remember later on, we played something similar with my game against Bobby and Unziker and so on. And the move order was a little bit different because he played first D6 and after F3 he changed the plan and played D5. This is already a mistake coming from a good player, a good grandmaster, because he realized the idea in two moves. The normal variation is already a little bit difficult for black, but if you lose a tempo, it's even worse, The alternative, the good alternative, was here instead of D5 to play E5. It's something else, completely different game, if he played D5. But okay, after D5, now white takes in D5, E3. And we have the normal position with the tempo more for white, because he played D6 first and then D5, And the white is already clearly better here, So after castle bishop D3, he tries to trade the bishop. It's a normal idea, to trade the white bishop in A6, but white is already better because has tempo more compared with the normal variation, and the game will be very quick, in in a few moves, white can demonstrate his advantage, So, okay, knight E2, bishop A6, no, A5 first. Another waste of time because he loses another tempo with A5, Maybe it was a little bit better to play immediately bishop A6. Even white keeps the advantage, but now he plays the same position without two tempos, Therefore, I told you, strategically, they were a little bit weaker compared with the European and American grandmasters, So castle, bishop A6. Okay, now the game goes on, normal. White realized the idea to play immediately E3, E4. If you realize in any kind of position this idea, white is clearly better. But now, in a few moves, white's advantage will be decisive, you see.
But what is the idea with E4?
He has no counterplay and you want to come quickly E4, F4, F5, On the other side, you have attacking chances for nothing with white, you see. But here in this line, we have also the idea to come immediately with the bishop in G5 after queen C6, So now it will happen in our game, bishop G5. And now he has to decide what to do. If he takes in C3, after bishop takes A6 and bishop takes F6, black can resign in a few moves. Because the advantage is fantastic for white, You're threatening already some mating attack with knight F5 or knight H5, and at the same time you want to play rook C1, rook takes C7. It's too much too much. So if he doesn't have time to take in C3, it's almost the same. Everything is forced. Now he takes in D3, you take with the queen, and now the only defense is knight D7, of course. And now after knight F5, the game is almost forced because now you're threatening already with white to give check in E7, and this a devastating threat, Like if you arrive in E7, he can resign immediately. So the only move to avoid this is to play queen C4 and king H8, and later on queen C4. Now knight E7 anyway. And now the only move, queen C4, because otherwise he loses without any counterplay the central pawn from D5. Now at least here he can trade queens, Yeah. So okay, now this position is hopeless for black. We'll see. Knight D5. We centralize our pieces. Now the threat is very strong because he played this move A5, weakening the position on the queen side. If the pawn was still in A7, maybe he could hope somehow to resist a little bit more. But now everything is forced. In just a few moves, he has a losing position. So after knight D5, C6, the only move now. to protect the pawn from c4. And now b5. It seems that finally he could resist somehow,
Yes.
but it's too late. Now a4. This is the decisive blow here. What to do? He can't play knight a6 because he loses the pawn a5. He can't play b4, he can't take in a4. What to do? The only move is, like in our game, knight a6, he loses the pawn from b5. From a5, pardon.
From
You
A5.
take in b5, takes,
Yes.
and the rook takes a5, winning immediately.
Yeah.
So he played knight b6. Now we took in b5, he took in b5, and rook b1. We attack the pawn. Now, again, you lose something, What to do? Knight a4, the only move. And after knight d5, Zugzwang. After knight d5, you have no move at all,
Yeah.
You're threatening knight c7, rook takes b5, terrible position. Now, the only hope is to give a piece and hope for a miracle, I mean, he gives a piece in c3. By the way, takes there, knight takes, and b4. And after bishop e7, of course, he resigned, because now you attack white attacks the rook, and he has time to take in b4. And of course, he resigned. As I told you before, black didn't understand strategically what happens, in this game.
But what was the main problem here with the black? That his pieces were undeveloped?
Yeah, he has no time to move the pieces on the queen side. You see that?
Yes.
On the queen side, the rook and the knight are still on the initial squares,
Yeah.
b8 and a8. It's enough to win.
Yeah.
But if you win something in between, it of course is even worse, and you win by force with white. Now, starting from the opening, the first mistake was to play d6 and then d6, d5, losing a tempo. Starting from there, everything is more or less clear. Even if he played perfectly the game, he has very good chances to lose the game, because without playing like this, the game is already very dangerous for black, as my game with Hunziker, Bobby Fischer, and so on could demonstrate very well, move by move. But if you win one tempo or two tempos immediately after the open, it's clear that white is almost winning, after 10, 15 moves, strategically, And it was a very good demonstration, our game here.
True.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gheorghiu.
It was very instructive, but not too complicated anyway. Yeah.
For who knows to play.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gheorghiu.
You are.